Hey, it's Christian Buckley at another MVP Buzz Chat, and I'm here with Mick. Mick, good afternoon.
Hi, Christian. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, and we were just briefly chatting. We both just got back from MVP Summit, to put a timestamp on the video. And well, why don't you introduce yourself for the folks that don't know you?
Sure. So I'm Mick Pletcher, and I'm a Microsoft MVP in the Cloud and Data Center Management. Specifically, I do most of my coding in PowerShell, and I focus on automation with System Center, especially Configuration Manager, and anything else in the corporate environment, the IT environment that needs automating. I write PowerShell code for.
I think you left something really important off of your resume there as you covered. It's like, so the question is, what's your latest welding?
So actually, I've been building a shipping container home. And
you can buy those. You can just go out. It's just a big metal box. You can buy that, right?
You can, but I wanted the challenge. I wanted to be able to build my own home and actually say, that I actually built it. And plus, I've designed some new items for it that I'm working on patents on for other people that might use them. Because I wanted a self-sustaining home that can reuse already used resources. And I wanted it completely off grid so it would be eco-friendly.
I was just having a conversation with somebody while in Redmond about, so I had a woman who worked for me years ago who had a piece of property over up over the hills on 90, beautiful piece of property. Actually, with my boys camped on her property with permission, but and they had like a little trailer on there. Mm-hmm. But we were talking about the conversation last week around the tiny homes phenomenon and being able to build something like buy this beautiful piece of property, not having to buy then a huge house on it for something that like a cabin or space, and like a tiny home. And I mean, I love the home. My wife is a designer, and so we watch a lot of those shows. But I tell you, in a former industrial designer, I love some of the homes, interesting materials that they use. But to build something out of 2 or 3 of those shipping containers is a huge space.
Well, it is, and so it's a weekend home we're building in West Tennessee, and it's right on the verge of 2 enormous lakes that are they're about 25 miles long, and it's 171,000 acres between the 2 lakes. And so it's called Land Between the Lakes.
Wow.
So we wanted a house right there. It's about 80 miles west of Nashville. So it takes about an hour and a half to get there. And my wife and I are big outdoors people. We love getting out in the woods, hiking, 4-wheeling, all that kind of stuff. And I told her, I said, hey, if I can sit in my office and write code all day, surely to God, you and I can get out and build our own home. And so we started 3 years ago. And to be honest with you, I'm getting tired of it, and I just want to finish now after 3 years.
That's a big project. My wife and I looked at one point buying a house in Folsom, California, the area that was like 120 years old. And so, we just looking at, and the structure was standing, but then everything that we had to do, I mean, we decided to not do it just because, well, we also needed to live in it at the same time, and living in it and doing construction, as you're, I'm sure, aware, is 2 things that generally don't go well together.
No, they don't. But I will say this. I mean, we've saved, so the house is 640 square feet all told. I mean, it's only a weekend home, so we didn't need a whole lot of space since it's just she and I. But we probably saved every bit of $60,000 to $70,000 in labor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've got about $24,000 in the house all told.
So how long till you have that project done?
Well, I'm getting ready to take, so this year I got more vacation added, and I'm getting ready to take about a week off, probably, hopefully, fingers crossed, no rain for a week this next month, or maybe May, and that's all about the more I need.
That's exciting. Well, tell us, so what do you, so you talked about, kind of what you're focused on, like, what are you talking about out there presenting on right now? What are kind of the hot topics for you?
So everybody's talking about Azure. I mean, don't get me wrong, Azure is big today, but there's also still System Center, and System Center is still, solid out there, and it is not being abandoned anytime soon. Not this summit, but last year's summit. One of the sessions there, they were talking about the System Center, and Microsoft came out and said, we are not abandoning this at all in any of the foreseeable future. So the big thing is there's still a lot of security stuff that you can use System Center for. So what I'm doing is I'm working on a lot of tools right now for System Center that can mitigate security issues.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I just published something on BitLocker. One of the big problems you have, even with group policy, BitLocker doesn't always push up to AD. And of course, Microsoft has announced they're going to abandon in 2024 MBAM. So we abandoned the MBAM project we were working on, and we're just going to stick with AD. So I wrote compliance policies in PowerShell for SCCM that it automatically checks in AD and makes sure that those keys are there, so that you don't have to worry and get caught with your pants down, basically, that somebody gets, maybe their TPM gets cleared out, and then you need the key to unlock it, and you don't have it.
Right. What's interesting is that so I in the Office apps and services world, SharePoint specifically, but kind of all of the Office 365 applications. There's a lot of talk over the last few years around hybrid and the number. And so I actually did some research 2 years ago. Microsoft is a lead sponsor of, and different Microsoft folks, including one of the VPs of SharePoint, Jeff Teeper, said that Microsoft was caught by surprise by how large. In fact, I think the one who said that was actually Julia White, that she was involved before she moved over to the Azure side of the house. But was that they caught Microsoft by surprise, the number of organizations that were really focused on a hybrid solution and hanging on to the other pieces. My point, though, is that we, being workload specific, you sometimes forget about, well, there's the rest of the environments. Sure. There's everything else going on there. And so, so I'm sure a lot of your clients that are still dealing with System Center, they're doing Azure things as well. So you've got hybrid environments. What's the hybrid story?
So, from what I see, of course, I work at a law firm. So, most of my clients are attorneys. But from what I hear and see out in the community, there's still a great number of people using Configuration Manager today, and have not gone to the cloud solutions of Intune and MDM. So, I think there still needs to be a good presence out there of MVPs working on projects for that. Because let's be honest, not every company is going to go to the cloud. Okay. We've gone to cloud here at the law firm I am, but like you said, we are a hybrid company.
But what I tell people is that, look, everyone will go to the cloud. It may not be in our lifetime.
Yes. Yes.
I'm not willing to put a date on it. That's the hard part, is making predictions about, and this is where some Microsoft people got in trouble. Is that like next 5 years? Like, yeah.
Yep. Completely agree with you there. And the cloud has its place. It is a great alternative for a lot of stuff, but I still see a lot of stuff that is just as good on-prem.
Yeah, well, that's the. I think my guidance. It's funny. So I started my career as a business analyst and a project manager, and so I always kind of take that perspective, that BA perspective, is like, understand your business requirements first before you try to solve it. And I've noticed, that over the years, over my career, that is a common mistake made by engineering-led organizations, that they jump to solution before fully understanding the scope of what's there. And in this respect, it's understand your business requirements. It's exciting to be involved with the latest, greatest technology, but you need to understand the true costs of moving to the latest, greatest things, and whether the business really needs it, and what the benefits are of those new features. There's a cost to moving, there's a cost to change, and sometimes those costs outweigh the benefits. and the financial benefits and rewards of moving, at least for the time being. So,
which is kind of where we are right now. So at the firm I'm at, we bought, well, it wasn't recent, but about 3 years ago, we bought all new servers. Before, I mean, Azure was out there, of course, but it wasn't as big as it was. So, we're in the situation that we've got to consume those servers, the value of them, before we actually go to cloud.
Right. That's that, the transition from that CapEx to OpEx. That's the thing. Sometimes you just have to let those play out. You get the earned value, and then you can start to transition over that. It's I think the important thing to do is just understand where you are in that cycle, whether it's 3 years, 5 years, 7 years, whatever that is, and then build your plan accordingly.
Yes, I completely agree.
Yeah, because it may not play out the entire time. At some point, again, if you're going in and you understand that, hey, if we cut over now, yes, we burn this cost, but here's the added value. It's actually costs us more to remain longer than to make the move. And then at that time, go.
Sure, absolutely. I completely agree with that. So
what else do you have? So I know you've got your blog. You're doing a lot out on the blog. What else do you have out there? Any other resources that you can point people
yes.
to?
Well, you've interviewed Harjit before.
I have. Yes.
So he and I do the PowerShell News podcast.
Oh, okay.
And so we're getting ready to do another episode on that. We do about a monthly episode because, to be honest with you, PowerShell isn't the hottest topic for latest news all the time. So, finding the latest news for it can be kind of daunting. So,
well, I would say though that the PowerShell sessions at a lot of the conferences that I go and speak at are still some of the most well attended sessions. So so maybe we could have a marketing discussion of how you guys need to tap into some of that and get into in front of some other audiences.
Well, see, that's what we're aiming for. So what we want to do is kind of travel a little more. We want to approach the PowerShell Summit next year and say, hey, can we come to the summit, get a pass to it, and be able to interview different people at the PowerShell Summit? I mean, that fits perfectly with our podcast.
Right. Well, what Harjit and I have talked about, I know he mentioned this, but he and I have talked about doing something that's similar to like the SharePoint and SQL Saturday model, but with more of a tech ed flavor, where it's intentionally covers, the Windows System Center, all the ops stuff, the DevOps stuff, as well as the front end.
Sure.
And so we're talking about trialing that out. So I just keep telling people it's like a mini tech ed, but community driven. And I'd love to know what people think. We'd need to do a survey or something out there to get people's thoughts on it. But it just seems like the conversation I have with people that they want to have that broader focus on that smaller scale. And of course, free is a magic number, so.
Definitely. Well, I also co-founded and run the Nashville PowerShell group. So it's kind of at current, we haven't had a meeting in a few months. To be honest, I've been on this Windows 10 upgrade here at the firm, and so I've been just covered with that. And so actually starting in May, what's the name of the vendor? Sir, hold on a second. I know. ZertoCon is going to be in Nashville. And Zerto is a backup service for servers, kind of like does a flash backup. So they're having a ZertoCon here in Nashville. And I think the podcast is going to be live there on that.
Oh, very cool.
So, yeah.
Well, the other thing I'd recommend, if you've not already looked at spsevents.org, and anything that's in the region where they would welcome your abstracts. So that's, you should tap into that series of events as well.
Definitely will. Of course, the MVP series of events also helps a lot too, when they send out the list of events going around.
Yeah, there's more. I think Microsoft is getting really good at that. It's recognizing, hey, we've got these largely untapped MVPs in these regions. So you have like Ignite the Tour that's going on, and You have the various boot camps and other events. And so, yeah, all that kind of stuff for those, tuning in. There's a lot more happening in the local communities, and Microsoft is trying to get better about supporting those and providing material, swag, and funds for a lot of those events. And so definitely pay attention to what's happening with the local Microsoft user groups. So I know it's a lot to go and kind of try and chase the various user groups. There are 9 here in the Salt Lake area, for example, and we have a hard time of trying to coordinate and share information between them. Some are better at sharing than others. I would argue that the SharePoint people are really good at sharing.
They are here. Actually, the SharePoint group is one of the best here in Nashville.
I know those folks well, so they've been trying to get me out to there. It always conflicts with other travel, but again this year. Well, anyway, Mick, how can people want to get in touch with you, find out more? What's the best way to find you?
So the best way to find me is Twitter. You can find me at Mick Pletcher, and it starts with a P. Everybody thinks I'm Fletcher with an F, but it actually does start with a P. So you can find me there, and then my blogs, Mick's IT blogs. You can get to it short, mickit.com. And then our podcast, the PowerShell News Podcast with Harjit Dalawal. So...
And I'll provide, I'll have a blog post with all the links that I share out there, and anything else, Mick, that you want to share and put in, I'll put in that summary post.
Okay. You
can find that out on buckleyplanet.com. And otherwise, hey, Mick, it was great talking to you, getting to know you, and again, name dropping on Harjit, who's one of the first people in this series to interview. So
I know I remember watching that one.
Yeah. And we're almost up to 50 now. So it's, ongoing, but hopefully we'll see you soon in the future and get together. You going to Build? You going to?
I'm not going to Build. Yes, I am going to Ignite. Registration, I believe, opens up in May on that. So
I think so. So I didn't go this last year, but looking forward to attending this year as well. So
I'm also going to be heading to the Chattanooga PowerShell down there because I'm not speaking, but I'm going to be doing some interviewing for the podcast. So
look for Mick there. And
yes.
Anyway, well, thanks a lot for your time today.
All right. Thanks for the interview.